Hi guys, it's me Sally again. I wanted to talk about today a little more about why I think that John is a picture of the bride of Christ. So I kind of wanted to hone in on explaining to you why I think that, so you don't think I'm pulling things out of a hat. So anyway, the other thing I forgot to mention in that last video I did was also Jesus, when he spoke to Peter in Matthew 18, verses 21 through 22, he says, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. And that is the same as Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 through 27, with Daniel's 70th week prophecy. So in typology, Jesus always likes to leave patterns for the future. And usually when I read scripture, I can see that, yes, I know it happened at that time, but I can also see that prophetically that what's going to happen in the future, and I can see which characters Jesus is placing as a type of which characters are going to be which in the future. So that's my point. But so Peter, he equated to Daniel's 70th week prophecy. So not only did he tell Peter that after you return, after you've denied me 3 times, you will strengthen your brethren. And brethren is always referred to the Jews. So just so you know that. Now let's go to John. The Gospel of John, chapter 3, is the only gospel that talks about how to become born again. The other Gospels do not talk about that. So that would be John 3, 5 through 8. Most assuredly I say to you, unless one be born of water, that's the flesh, you're going to be born as a human. That's not talking about water baptism like some people try to claim. It's not. Born of the water and of the Spirit. So you have to first be born as a human being, and then you have to be reborn. He cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh. So the water is explaining that's actually the flesh. And that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. So, and then he says you must be born again. And then he talks about the wind as the Spirit. Just like he breathed breath into Adam when he created Adam, that was the Spirit, the breath. Same thing. And then I wanted to take you to John chapter 11 with the story with Lazarus. And and we'll look at verses 25 through 27. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, yet shall he live. That is talking about the dead in Christ. And whosoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? That's talking about those of us who remain. We live and we will never die. So he's alluding to the rapture right there in those verses. And then she says, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God who came into the world. So she believed. Then John 14, verses 1 through 3. Excuse me. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions, or dwelling places, like I've talked about before. Dwelling places which will actually be in the new Jerusalem, which is what he is building, has been building for the last 2,000 years. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you, take you, snatch you, seize you, caught up to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. I wanted to show you those verses I just read in John 14 is Jesus's marriage proposal. And this movie is called Before the Wrath. And I recommend that you watch this, because this is about the Galilean wedding and what takes place where the young groom comes to this woman and he brings a glass of wine and he proposes to her, and she has the option to take the glass of wine and drink it and say yes. And when she does, then he goes and prepares a living space attached to his Father's house. Sound familiar? And then he comes back when that's completed, comes back and gets his bride. He picks. There's a procession where they're blowing trumpets. They come in the streets. They're blowing trumpets saying the bridegroom is here. She has to be ready in her gown and ready to go. So she goes out to meet him. And they put her in a kind of like a carrying type of bed, and they lift her up above the ground on this mat, and it's called the flyaway. And what does that sound like to you? That's all in that movie. It's called Before the Wrath, and it's all about the Galilean wedding, and it's identical to John 14, 1 through 3. And the disciples would have known exactly what Jesus was that he was proposing to them, that this was a marriage contract. They would have known that because they were Galilean. So, just wanted to let you know that. Then I wanted to bring you to John 17, verses 20 through 24. This is Jesus' prayer to the Father. I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be one in us, and that the world may believe that you sent me. The glory which you have given me, I have given them, that they may be one just as we are one. This is marriage language. This is the same as back in Genesis, when the man shall leave his wife or his parents and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. This is marriage language. Same as in Ephesians, the two shall become one. I and them, and you and me, that they may be made perfect in one, that the world may know that you have sent me, and have loved them as you have loved me. Father, I desire that they also whom you gave me may be with me where I am. Well, that sounds like John 14, 1 through 3. That they may behold my glory, which you have given me. For you loved me before the foundation of the world. And that's exactly what happened to the Apostle John. Remember in Luke 9:27, it says, there are some standing here who will not taste death till they see the kingdom of God. And John was taken up to the throne room in heaven, and he beheld the glory of Yeshua. Absolutely. So this is marriage language. And I hope you understand that. So I wanted to point that out. So Genesis 2:21 through 24. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, actually it's his side, one of his side. It doesn't necessarily mean rib. If you look it up in the Hebrew, it means the side or side chamber. And he closed up the flesh in its place, and the side which the Lord had taken from the man he made into the woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, this is my bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of the man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Just like we read in the Gospel of John. We become one with him. And that's only because we are born again. So there's that. Luke 24:39. Jesus says, behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have. Notice it's not flesh and blood, it's flesh and bones. That's the same as we just read in Genesis. It has to do with that marriage, being one with him, being married to him. And also Ephesians 6. That he might sanctify and cleanse her with a washing of the water by the word, to present her a glorious church. And verse 31, I believe. Actually, verse 30. Just as the Lord does the church. Okay. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. So this is being married to our bridegroom. Marriage language. John 19. Oh, I wanted to talk about the side. Okay, so before we go to John 19, I wanted to talk about the side. We know that Jesus was pierced on the side, on the cross. That's very prophetic. How do I know that? Well, Adam, the woman, came from his side. And when Jesus was pierced on his side, the church came from his side. So Exodus 34, this is powerful. Verses 25 through 27. Now when Moses saw that the people were unrestrained, for Aaron had not restrained them, to their shame among their enemies, then Moses stood in the entrance of the camp and said, Whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me. Wow. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. And then he told them to go and kill all the other ones who had, formed that golden calf and sinned. And they did that. So the Levites are priests, and Peter also calls us kings and priests. Wow. Who is on the Lord's side, come to me. And the priests gathered to him. Wow. That's wild. Mark 16, 4 through 6. And when they looked up, they saw the stone had been rolled away, and it was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man clothed in a long white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. Wow. Now let's go back to John chapter 19, verse 34. The soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water came out. Okay, let's continue. Now chapter 20, verse 20. And when he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. Then the disciples were glad when they saw the Lord. And then after that he breathes on them, and they received the Holy Spirit. After they saw his hands and his side, this is all connected. It's just incredible. Verse 25. So he said to them, unless I see his hands and the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. Now this is Thomas, we know. So then Jesus says in verse 27, reach your finger here and look at my hands, and reach out your hand here and put it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believing. Wow, it's very prophetic with the side. Chapter 21, verse 6. Jesus said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find the fish. They caught 153 fish on the right side of the boat. You think that's a quinky dink? No. It was very prophetic. 1 John 5, verses 6 through 8. And this is he who came by water and blood, Jesus Christ, not only by water, but by water and blood. When he was pierced on his side, water and blood came out. And it is the Spirit who bears witness, because the Spirit is truth. For there are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. And there are three that bear witness on the earth, the Spirit, the water, and the blood. These three agree as one. Wow. And we have the Spirit of Christ, and we drink of his water, his living water, and we have been washed, cleansed in his blood. This is amazing. And also I wanted to share a verse in Hebrews that goes along with those verses in Exodus 32, 25 through 27. I think I forgot to read verse 27, because, yeah, I did. And he said to them, thus says the Lord God of Israel, let every man put his sword on his side, and go in from the entrance to entrance throughout the camp, and let every man kill his brother, every man his companion. The sword on the side. The sword of the word, just like in Ephesians chapter 6 and also Hebrews 4:12. For the word of God is a living, powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing into the division of the soul and spirit and the joints and marrows, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. So we have to have the sword on our side. Wow. I mean, this is just incredible. So anyway, I just wanted to point these verses out. That Peter in Luke chapter 9 with the transfiguration story is actually a type of the 144,000 during the tribulation. That's usually when I read scriptures, I can see things that point to the future, and I'm very thankful that I can see that, and these are the things that the Lord shows me, so I'd like to share them with other people. And I hope that these things bless you. I really do. So Peter in that story is a type of the 144,000. John is a type of the church, the bride of Christ. James in that story is the dead in Christ. So it's actually very prophetic. Yes, it happened then. Yes, it's true. But there's also a meaning in the future. and I tend to focus on stuff that is meaning for the future. So I like to share those things because these are really cool things the Lord showed me. So that's all I wanted to say today. So I hope these things bless you, and let's keep praying for each other, and don't lose heart. Our redemption draws near. Keep looking up. And I love you guys. Okay, God bless.